Whew. All right. We're gonna get started in just a second, everybody. Just waiting on a couple more things, really quick. Just making sure we're live on other platforms as well. So give me 1 second, everybody. Yeah, and sorry if I look dead. Just came back from a state playoff game that my friend was coaching. So, oh, whoops. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't need to hear me twice. Okay. Let me just do this really quick, and then we can get started. Do, 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 do. Um, let's see here. Just go to the charge. Should be live on here. Okay, yep, we're live there. Sure, we're live on Kick. Otherwise, it'll be awkward if we're not live on Kick. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay, that's that. And are we live on Twitch? All right, we're live on all the platforms. Let's do this. All right. Again, how's everyone doing Monday night? I know it's or I guess Tuesday night. See, it's been such a long week already. Only Tuesday, right? But nevertheless, hopefully you guys are enjoying your Tuesday afternoon. I know I just or Tuesday night, midnight where you guys are at on the west east coast. But I hope you guys are enjoying your night. I know it's been a long time since we've kind of done some consistent streams or stuff about playoffs. But of course, you know, the draft lottery did come out. And so, of course, we have to talk about that. And, you know, I think it's safe to say that Wembanyama went to probably the best place that he could have gone to in terms of development in his career. So I'm certain that he's happy about that. And, you know, these other franchises that had a chance to get Wembanyama are, of course, frustrated. And I think there's one team that has to be the most frustrated on that. And we'll talk about that in just a second. We're also going to talk, of course, about the LA Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets. I thought this was a very interesting game going into tonight. You know, we obviously talked about winning the battles, and for the most part, the Denver Nuggets answered it in the first three quarters. But, you know, the Lakers are a team full of guys that just have a non-quit mentality. Something that Darvin Ham has definitely instilled in his guys. So you can't necessarily hate on that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And really what I think was the big adjustment that the Lakers need to make moving forward. So we will talk about that in just a second. But before we do any of that, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff helps us out tremendously here. It helps me and my boy Pete out, helps Brad out as well, just to get people talking about the channel. Again, all this stuff is for you guys. We want to make sure that this is a community and a place where you can talk and get your opinions out there. So make sure to leave that in the comment section. And let's just get started right into it. Let's start off with let's do this. We're going to start off with the NBA draft lottery because I felt like this was, I would say, a very interesting situation for these teams that are here in this particular order. Of course, we have the San Antonio Spurs with the number 1 pick, Charlotte Hornets with number 2, the Portland Trailblazers with 3, Houston at 4, Detroit, Orlando, Indiana, Washington, Utah, Dallas, Orlando, Oklahoma City, Toronto, and New Orleans. And, you know, obviously the New Orleans Pelicans don't want to be here anymore. They want to get out of here. They have Zion Williamson. They have Brandon Ingram. They have CJ McCollum. They feel like they should be out of there. And so we'll see what happens with them, especially when it comes to Zion, because it is frustrating to know that he will not be playing for your team because he's just hurt all the dang time. So we'll definitely go talk about that one probably at a later date, probably with Pete. But I really wanted to talk about the top 4, really top 5, if you will. I think Orlando is in a actually a very interesting spot as well because they have the ability to trade some of the picks that they have, and they could potentially do something dangerous there. The one team that seems to always want to be in this draft lottery is, of course, the Washington Wizards. The question is, who are they going to draft again? Are they going to draft the same type of guard or same type of forward, 6'9" to 6'10", and plays the same position and does the same things? That's something that they're also going to need to figure out, and we'll kind of do a more draft analysis. Pete and I will on these prospects that are coming up in this year's draft. But really, the top 5. Let's get right into it. Obviously, without a question, the San Antonio Spurs won the NBA draft night lottery. I mean, when you think about special type of talents that don't come very often, Victor Wembanyama is a talent that is something, or someone, I should say, that teams dream and salivate over when it comes to a guy that is over 7 feet, can handle the rock, can shoot the ball lights out. That is something that is rarely ever seen in the NBA. And the fact that the San Antonio Spurs are going to have the ability to not only coach Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker, but also to be able to coach a guy like Victor Wembanyama, who could potentially, and I say potentially, be a future borderline Hall of Fame. I would say at this point, Hall of Fame, could be NBA champion for years to come type of player. It is a very interesting situation to see there in San Antonio, again, for Popovich to not only be able to coach Tim Duncan, but to coach Victor Wembanyama and these other guys that are coming up in this year's draft. We know the San Antonio Spurs game plan. They already know who they're going to pick. They're going to sign the card saying Victor Wembanyama and hand it right to the commissioner, because to me, there is no other option here. It is Victor Wembanyama or bust, and that's something that San Antonio, especially these other teams, were hoping for. Obviously, there's some great talented players on this roster. I should say this draft. We have guys like Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins, Jarris Walker. I know from Houston was a big one. I believe Cam Whitmore from Villanova. I know that Anthony Black from Arkansas was another guy. Grady Dick is also in this draft class. It's interesting that they have him going to Utah. Again, so many of these other guys that you're seeing here as to who ESPN is predicting that these players will go to. I know that I believe, let me see if he's in here. I know that just to shout out my Gonzaga friends after they kind of dealt with what they needed to deal with. I thought he was in here, but maybe he's not. Let me just do a quick search. Julian Strawthard at 51. So yeah, he definitely fell in the draft. I'm assuming that he didn't really do so well in the I would say the combine. And so the bigger question for me is really the losers in this draft. I would say a loser in this draft would be Houston and Detroit. The reason why I think Houston and Detroit are the biggest losers in this is because Detroit lost so many games and they weren't able to get into at least a top 2, top 3 position where they could draft a guy like Brandon Miller, who I feel like they would benefit from having. So I'm curious to see if the Detroit Pistons might trade that pick away. Another team that should be very disappointed is the Houston Rockets. I mean, from going to getting what you thought was going to be Paulo Banchero to now, you got Jabari Smith, who's, still a rookie, could develop into something, but hasn't really progressed the way that they would love him to. And I know it's early in his career, so I don't think we should be writing him off anytime soon. But that the Houston Rockets were hoping that Paulo Banchero was there. And now the Houston Rockets have to deal with who's ever going to be left there for them. Again, according to ESPN, they have him drafting Amen Thompson, who, I think could potentially fit in depending on what they're going to want to do with Kevin Porter Jr. I think the question for me, though, my worry about him being there is really like the other guys that are on this team. You got guys like Jalen Green. Can he be efficient enough to be on this roster for him? That's the question for me moving forward for the Houston Rockets is, yes, they definitely are a team that needs to decide what they're going to do with that pick, because it is slim pickings, if I do say so myself, for them, especially if they're not going to get the top 3 guys, especially Scoot and Brandon Miller. I know Pete is very high on the Thompson twins, but I just don't know what direction the Houston Rockets organization is going in, because James Harden is rumored to come back. For whatever reason, he wants to go back to Houston. I'm sure there's plenty of reasons that we won't name. But I'm sure you guys can use your imagination as to why he wants to go back there. Um, but nevertheless, like that to me, like they need to figure their stuff out quickly and fast because at the end of the day, James Harden is a very talented player. He's can score with the best of them, but at the same time, when you think about him and the future stuff that's going on, you know where does he fit in this timeline for the Houston Rockets, who are obviously so young, have one of the youngest rosters out there, and yet they're expected to, get a guy in James Harden who's like in his, mid to late 30s. That's a tough sell if you're the Houston Rockets. Like, what's the game plan here? Do we draft the best player available? Do we draft, a team or a player that's more at age appropriate in terms of like what they need for them? That's the biggest question that the Houston Rockets are going to have to deal with um, in this draft class. And the reason why I say they're one of the biggest losers, not because they're not going to draft a talented player, more so it's more clear if they would have drafted Wembanyama or even to me Brandon Miller rather than a point guard, because at the end of the day, James Harden is the point guard. And you have a guy like Jalen Green who's very inefficient. You have Alfred Sengun, who's a very good player and I think could develop into something special. And then you have Jabari Smith, who's a wild card, and you have no idea what he could turn into. Obviously, if he can be a stretch like Robert Covington type of player, maybe even better, maybe Tobias Harris plus would be great. Because I think that's something that the Houston Rockets have to decide with those guys. Because like the ESPN says here on their roster or this thing, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be yawning a lot in this thing, but those are the three guys you're building around. Those are your cornerstone pieces as of right now. So they're gonna have to decide, who fits their timeline, what players they're gonna want, because I think it's gonna be hard decisions to be made in Houston as to, do you bring James Harden in? Do you not bring him? That's going to be the very interesting question and scenario. Oh my gosh, it's already starting. That they're going to have to figure out for the future. Another loser for me is the Detroit Pistons. Like I said, obviously having the worst record and not being able to produce, I would say, Brandon Miller or Wembanyama is a little bit of a disappointment for the Detroit Pistons. But what this can do for Detroit is start up trade rumors, like start up trade conversations about what they want. Because I think the thing with the Detroit Pistons that they need to realize is that I think they have a solid core nucleus of players. They just need to decide what they're going to do with that nucleus, right? Are they going to, trying to think of the right word here, but like, are they going to try to build something in which they just need like an older player to kind of get them over the hump, like get a star player and try and trade that number 5 pick? Do they go after a guy like Bradley Beal? I'm not sure how much he's going to cost. He's probably going to cost an arm and a leg for Detroit, but do you bring him in and try to get him acclimated to Detroit basketball? Or do you go after, some of these other players that are out there in the league? Like, that's the thing that the Detroit Pistons have to decide moving forward. Because to me, like, you can take this guy that ESPN is recommending in Jarris Walker, but at the same time, I just think that they need to start planning for now. Like, Cade Cunningham is the guy you're building around. Cade Cunningham is your player that you were trying to say, this is our number 1, number 2 option. Like, this is a guy that we're building our core nucleus around. You have so many good players, Jalen Duren. You have a lot of talented, centers and bigs. And like looking at their roster really quick, just to kind of talk about it. You have guys like Cade Cunningham, you have Jalen Duren, you have Killian Hayes, who has surprised me a little bit. I've always been critical of him, but he's shown that he's grown a little bit, and there's something there that you can build off of. You have Isaiah Stewart, you have James Wiseman, who you got. Like, there's a lot of like interesting pieces on this team to now saying like, could we potentially, trying to think of the right word to say here, but could we potentially trade some of these guys to get like a superstar player? Because at the end of the day, the number 5 pick for the Detroit Pistons may make a difference in the future, but at the same time, I think, the number 5 pick does fit the timeline of this player, but, they're going to have to decide, is it going to be Jarris Walker? Who is going to be the player for them to build around and to decide, like, yes, this is the guy that we want to put our eggs in one basket in? And so That's going to be the interesting scenario for the, I would say, Detroit Pistons in that sense. Again, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the biggest winner and losers of this draft? Like I said, I think that to me, the biggest winners are the San Antonio Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. You could say Charlotte in a sense, but really Portland, right? Because they didn't really have great odds, but they ended up getting in there. They, again, they're going to have a potential to either get Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller, depending on what the Hornets do. And that's, to me, is a huge pickup for them. Now the Portland Trailblazers have to decide on Dame Lillard. Like, excuse me. Who does Dame, does he continue to play for the Blazers? Does he move to a different team? That's going to be a question for everybody to decide. And really not for me, but for the people that are out there, maybe you guys in the comment section. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that Portland should trade Damian Lillard and start building around the young guys? Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? Because again, this is going to be a very interesting scenario for Portland and who goes to number 3. Is it going to be Brandon Miller? Is it going to be Scoot Henderson? That's the biggest question. Or is it the Thompson twins? I know that they are, again, Pete is a huge fan of them. And to be fair with you guys, I haven't done my due diligence on those guys. I know I've done it on Ahmed Thompson just a little bit, but not enough to say like, yes, this is what he's good at. This is not what he's good at. I've done more so with Scoot Henderson and Victor Wembanyama, just because those were the two guys heading into this year. Is like, these are the can't miss prospects for this year. So I will be definitely doing my due diligence, I would say, and looking into that. So let's move on to the next conversation, of course, which is going to be the Lakers and the Nuggets. But again, let me know in the comment section down below if your team is in the top 14. Are you excited? And what player do you want in this draft lottery? Let me know in the comment section down below. All right. And let's kind of move on to the final topic. And again, I don't want to be on here too long. You probably guys don't want to see a tired me talk about Lakers versus Nuggets, but we're going to talk about it. Lakers versus Nuggets in I would say a barn burner of a matchup. This to me was a great game. Hang on, let me just make sure that we're live. I think there's some people in here. Oh, James, I knew he was going to be in here. Your Nuggets won. This was a very interesting game. And James, I know you were probably watching this game a lot. This was a game, obviously, the Denver Nuggets killed it in for the first 3 quarters. Like, it was their game for the taking. Like, if you look at the score, 37, 35, 34, and then in the fourth quarter, it was a tough matchup and a tough scenario for them. But at the end of the day, Jokic and the Denver Nuggets got it done. If you look at the numbers for everybody, the person that I would say I'd be most concerned with is probably going to be Aaron Gordon, just because he's, they're probably going to try to, dial in on him just a little bit and kind of force him to be a shooter or force him to score a little bit more. So look for Darvin Ham to definitely make an adjustment in that scenario. But Kevin Porter Jr. played really well. Jokic played amazing, 21 rebounds, 34 points. I mean, this was something, 14 assists. Like, this was, I would say, video game-esque numbers from a guy that, again, a lot of people said shouldn't have won the MVP. A lot of people doubted. Again, I said that Jokic should have won, or sorry, not Jokic. I said that Embiid should have won the MVP. But at the same time, you could clearly see that, Jokic definitely needed to be in the conversation, at least as number 2. I know regular season and playoffs are completely different. I've said my piece about Joel Embiid many times on this channel. But at the same time, like, we can't ignore what Jokic is doing. Again, video game numbers on 17 shots, 8 free throws, not that many free throws, and still was able to do what he did is impressive. The fourth quarter, I would say, was a little shaky from him, just because I think that that's where most of his turnovers came from. But at the end of the day, they got it done, and that's all that really matters for the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray playing like his usual self. Caldwell Pope, was lighting it up, 21 points. The real question for me now, if you're a Lakers fan, and really if you're a Darvin Ham, and really just a coach enthusiast, like, what are the adjustments that the coach is making for the LA Lakers? First and foremost, I know my Gonzaga boys are going to like this one. Rui Hachimura has to play more minutes. I talked about it before in a couple weeks back when they were playing in that Golden State Warriors series. Like, I understand that you had to play Vanderbilt. D'Lo was cooking. But this is a series in which I think you need to have the most serious players in there. And there's a reason why D'Angelo Russell only played 26 minutes tonight compared to 28 for Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura has to play 30 minutes a game, 25 plus for Rui Hachimura from here on out. He can no longer be in the teens when he's playing or in any of this sort of situation. He is too good of a player to keep out of this rotation. He's too good of a player to not put in there. The big question for Darvin Ham and what's really going to come boil down to for him is when D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves are not playing very well, one of them has to sub out for one another. Because if I'm the Lakers, this is the lineup that I'm imagining them running. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, and then a combination of either D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves, depending on who's hot that night. Because at the end of the day, both of these guys didn't play particularly the best. I would say Austin Reeves played really well. Obviously, D'Lo did not play a great game. But to be fair for Austin Reeves, he didn't really get going until that fourth quarter where I think he had 11 in that quarter. And so when you have a guy that was struggling, if you take 11 of that away, he's got 12 points in there. I mean, again, the Nuggets defensively, we're going to talk about their defensive strategy because I think it's very interesting. But at the end of the day, the Lakers have to go big because the only way that you can combat the Denver Nuggets size is by going back with size because guys like the smallest guy for the Denver Nuggets is Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is kind of the tinier guy of everybody. And that's the guy that's probably going to get exposed the most on defense. There's a reason why his plus minus is a +3, where everyone else is like +20, +11, and really plus in the double digits. And to me, like looking at the numbers, looking at everything that's going on, LA has to play a lot bigger. And I know that you're not going to play a guy like Mo Bamba. I know you're not going to play a guy like Tristan Thompson, but you do have to start playing some of the bigger guys. Like, again, to me, it's going to boil down to who's giving you more productive minutes, D'Lo or Austin Reeves. And tonight they went with Austin Reeves, and he obviously produced in that fourth quarter. But for the first three, it was not pretty. I think LeBron James didn't play particularly well tonight either. I think that that I would say, give credit to the Denver Nuggets. They did a great job of, kind of getting in tight and making sure that a guy like LeBron James doesn't go in there and start, driving in and assisting everybody. Like they dug in there, like in the last play that LeBron James turned it over. It was a great play by the Denver Nuggets to just kind of collapse in. And then Jamal Murray just digging in there and causing that turnover. Like that, those are the type of plays that this Denver Nuggets team has to make in order for them to succeed in this playoff series. I think that if you're the Lakers, you're not demoralized by this loss because at the end of the day, you did cut it to within 5 points at one point, 3 points at one point in the fourth quarter. So you can't really be too necessarily upset about it. The only thing that you can be upset is how do you get stops on this team? Because, Jokic is going to be efficient. Jamal Murray is going to be efficient. You're going to have to get guys like Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green, and, are you going to get the same game from Bruce Brown? That's going to be a very interesting thing to say about it. Let's see here. Someone posted in here. Do you think AD is going to put up 40 again? That's the big question, James. I mean, I don't know if he'll put up 40. I think it's a tough sell and a tough ask for any player to put up 40 points, let alone in the playoff game. I know Jokic has been doing at least 25 plus, but I do think that you're going to get some players that are going to step up in that performance. I mean, to be honest, James, like you don't need to get one player to get 40 points. You just need him to be effective in the rebounding category. I just thought that if we look at the kind of the board battle, 47-30, no matter if it's offense, let's look at the offensive versus defensive rebound. 5 offensive rebounds, 15 offensive rebounds for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, you could clearly see why the Denver Nuggets won that game, even though they won by 6. They still didn't win convincingly. Um, and you know, when you get so many offense, when you think about it in this perspective, James, when you get offensive rebounds, that equals another possession that the team has. And I thought the Denver Nuggets did a good job of retaining those possessions and doing a good job of scoring. There's a reason why, like I said, in the first 3 quarters they were dominant, they were explosive, and then in the last quarter they kind of they got tired. I would say, in my opinion, is that they kind of ran out of steam at the end, but they were lucky enough, and I would say lucky, but I would say they were good enough in the first 3 quarters to kind of outweigh their negative fourth quarter. I don't necessarily think that Anthony Davis needs to get 40 points. I think he needs to at least get 28 to 34, 35 points. I would say 28 is probably the magic number for them. They just need to make sure that they're getting productive minutes from Rui Hachimura, from Austin Reeves, and Dennis Schroeder, or a combination of Vanderbilt needs to score. Like Vanderbilt and really Lonnie Walker, I know came up and is a great story. But again, he's kind of one of those guys. And the same with Vanderbilt, same with D'Angelo Russell. Those are the type of guys that Darvin Ham has to decide, like, who's giving them the productive minutes offensively. I think Vanderbilt can give it to you at times, but he just isn't. He's not the offensive threat that a guy like, I would say, Lonnie Walker is, or even a guy like D'Angelo Russell or even Austin Reeves is. So I think for me, they need to figure out how to get some of those guys some extra shots. I think that's going to be the tough part and really the tough sell, I would say, for the Denver Nuggets. Defending is, or sorry, not Denver Nuggets, sorry, the Lakers, excuse me. You can tell it's already late here. The Lakers need to decide, like, what guy's going to give them the productive minutes. Because, again, you can't get 4 for 11 and 0 for 3 from three-point land from D'Angelo Russell and only giving you 3 assists. And defensively being a turnstile just because of the fact that he is a much smaller guard compared to the rest of the starting lineup for the Denver Nuggets. Austin Reeves, again, didn't really give you too much until the fourth quarter. And you're going to need a lot more from him in order for this team to succeed and to kind of ball out. I think LeBron James did a good job tonight. Obviously rebounding and almost getting a triple-double himself. But really, I would love to see more point guard LeBron James kind of coming up the court and doing his thing. Getting Anthony Davis a little bit more involved. Even though he was involved, I wouldn't say that Anthony Davis wasn't. But I just think that opens up opportunities for guys like Reeves, for Russell, for Walker, I would say for Rui Hachimura to get those threes that they're looking for. Again, those are the type of things that an LA Lakers team is looking for. Like, you need to get Rui Hachimura more than just one 3-point shot. Like, he is the best 3-point shooter in the NBA playoffs right now, and you have to get this guy shots. And if you can't get this guy shots, that's going to be a concern and an alarming thing for the Lakers. Because, again, he's a great player. I think he's just been put in bad situations, of course, in DC. He just has to play more. He's the size, he's the length that this Lakers team needs in order to even keep up with guys like Porter and Gordon and even a guy like Braun, Jeff Green, like those guys and Bruce Brown, like those guys are long and athletic. And that's why the Lakers won their series against the Golden State Warriors. They were just bigger and stronger and more athletic than the other team. And that's something that the Lakers need to start doing as the equalizer. I thought that Jokic kind of won the big man battle tonight, even though I would say AD put up the most points. Well, he did put up the most points. But Jokic won everything else. He won the rebounding battle, he won the assist battle, and he got his teammates involved in many ways than none. And really, I would say kind of got some good looks and good opportunities against Anthony Davis. Even though Anthony Davis did a good job, on Joker and made him miss a couple shots because, when they would do Rui Hachimura on Joker and then it would be a back down and then Rui would be defending him, but AD would be the kind of like the free safety or the guy that would just kind of slide in there. And as soon as Jokic was about to turn to his shoulder to score, Anthony Davis would be there. And that's something that they're going to need to do more of. And they're going to need Jokic to shoot more shots and lower that percentage down for them in order for them to win games. Again, I would say the great I mean, again, the battle to me was won in the first three quarters than any other quarter. So again, I think the Lakers are going to be just fine. I think the Nuggets are going to be just fine. It's like I said, it's going to come down to the role players for me. Like again, Jokic is going to do his thing. I know he's going to get at least close to a triple double, a lot of assists, a lot of rebounding. Davis is going to get a lot of points, can get you a lot of rebounds, but it's going to be up to guys like Russell, Reeves, Hachimura, Vanderbilt, Walker. Like those guys need to give you the minutes and the points that you've been looking for in order for this team to win. But at the end of the day, the Denver Nuggets are just a damn good basketball team. The way that they run their offense, the things that they run offensively with this sort of Princeton style hybrid 5-out is a thing of beauty. And that's something that I think a lot of coaches are moving towards. I know that teams like Furman, teams like FAU, teams that were in the NCAA tournament that I just mentioned, like those teams are running that type of style of Princeton. It's on steroids when you have Jokic in there. So anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of the LA Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets? I know that this is going to be a fun series to watch. The Denver Nuggets are a great basketball team. The Lakers have come into form as of late, and you can clearly see that the Lakers have a roster that could definitely be NBA Finals contenders. But let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the LA Lakers and the Denver Nuggets series? Is it over already? Do you guys think the Nuggets will win, or do you think that the LA Lakers will make a run at the NBA Finals? I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it. This has been your boy, Bernie. Thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And I appreciate everybody that was kind of tuning in tonight. I know that it's late night. I know people are already asleep. So catch this in the morning. Tell me what you guys think about all this stuff. And I'll put out separate videos for each section. And let me know what you guys think about the NBA Draft Lottery, and of course, this game for the Western Conference Finals. We all know the Eastern Conference Finals is tomorrow, and I'm nervous as hell. Anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining me here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions, and we'll catch everybody on the next episode. Peace. And James, Jeff Green.